Let's start history. The history of Sikhs as a component of the PCS, the civil services part, the provincial exams, which may take place in the following months. Still, the date has not been declared, but we are covering this history of Sikhs. The history can be seen in two perspectives. One is the synchronical history, and the other one is diachronical history. When the history moves over time, that is the diachronical. And if we discuss the history by fixing ourselves at one particular moment on the timeline, let it be what had happened there in 1762. This is one of the genocides that had taken place, which we call Kalukara. Now, what were the situations in 1762? For example, this is Punjab. This is a rough sketch of Punjab. And we are having certain rivers. This is River Ravi. And this is a river Byas. And from here we are having River Sutlej. That's River Ghaggar. Now, giving you an idea that what is synchronical history. Now we are fixing up somewhere here in 1762. That is the Vada Kalukara, the larger genocide. What exactly had happened in that very particular year? Ahmad Shah Abdali was here in Lahore. Ahmad Shah Abdali. Here we are having Sahand. Jain Khan was, by this moment, he was positioned there. And this is Malerkotla, and Bhatkan Khan was stationed here. These are the forests. These are the forests of Kup and Rehra, Rehra, R-E-H-I-R-A. Ahmad Shah Abdali immediately entered, crossed the rivers, crossed Sutlej, first Byas, then Sutlej, and made aggression from the northwestern end. Jain Khan, he had come from this side and he started attacking the Sikhs which were there in this particular forest, not very far away from Sangrur. That is Kup Rehra forest. And Bhatkan Khan had come from this side and he has covered the other end. In this manner, the Sikhs in these forests, which were having so many of the tab, so many of the water reservoirs also there, they were trapped in between along with their families. Ambushes took place. The northwestern end was bit tired because of 2.5 days journey with Ahmad Shah Abdali. And ultimately few moments they have got and they ran in different directions. Most of them have taken the path of the deserts. So this is one particular moment we are talking about. We are in 1762. We are talking about an event and what had happened in that event that we are covering. This is the synchronical history. And we are covering both aspects, the synchronical as well as the diachronical. I will give you another example. Let's see here. Again, I have made the Punjab. Now we are here in 1745 and 46. Now this is another genocide that had taken place. In the year 1746, maximum people were killed. Now how the things had happened there? Now this is again the same rivers. This is River Ravi. That's River Byas. And this is the river Sutlej. Again, the same Ghaggar river is going on. The inland drainage system of the Ghaggar. Now here what had happened? In Lahore, there was a lot of persecution was taking place. In Lahore. Sikhs were persecuted in Lahore from, you can say this last 6, 7, 8 years. Otherwise, the entire 18th century had seen persecution of the Sikhs. It started from martyrdom of Banda Bahadur, 1716 onwards. And there was no respite till Maharaja Ranjit Singh's government was stabilized. No, we are talking about only one particular year. This is 1746 when 10,000 people were killed. Where they were killed? There was a swampy area, that is Kahnuwan, somewhere over here. And there were the movements from Lahore again. This time, the financial advisor, Lakhpat Rai, whose brother Jaswant Rai was killed in one of the skirmishes, one of the encounters. He was having hatred for the Sikhs in 18th century. And we were having the regime of Zakaria Khan also. Yahya Khan had come to the power 1746. This is Lakhpat Rai, Yahya Khan, and the hilly kings, the kings of the hilly areas, the Shivalik kings. Now, this portion was covered by them. Yahya Khan's forces has come from the site of Ravi, from Lahore. Most of the people were there in these swamps of the Gurdaspur, and these swamps are called the Kahnuwan swamps, Kahnuwan. Swamps. They tried to cross River Ravi. This is River Ravi. They were not successful. There was a lot of resilience from the Shivalik side. And ultimately, they have started moving downward, and they have come down over here in Lakhi jungles, barely 15-20 kilometers away from Bathinda. on the Muktsar side. Now, this process was pretty long. There were the forces, lots of resilience, and ultimately, people first, they were having problem with the Byas, then with Sutlej. People were less killed by Lakhpat Rai and the Yahya Khan's forces, more by River Byas. The timing was March, April, May, June, and the monsoon had come and the rivers were in a turbulent flow. Now, this is when we are talking about one particular moment. We are in the history. We are picking up one particular moment in one particular year. That is the synchronical history. Again, this is synchronical history, and the second one is diachronical history. When we move over the time, over the decades, over the centuries, over the millennium, so that is a diachronical history, that the history that moves forward over time. Now, if we keep the diachronical history of the Sikhs, we can divide into 4 parts. This one is the early Sikh history, the early Sikh history. Let's start it there from with the birth of Guru Nanak to the demise of 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh. This is the early Sikh history. Early Sikh history. Now, if we see the second phase, this is pre-colonial, that is 1708 to 1849. That is a second Anglo-Sikh war. The first one had taken place in 1845-46 and the second one is in 1849. Afterwards, we are having the third one, the colonial Sikh history. This is from 1849 to 1947. And thereafter, we are having the post-colonial Sikh history. That is from 1947 to 2025. The year in which we are living right now. Now, if we are going to study history of Sikhs like this is diachronical. If we are going to pick up one particular event at one particular moment, that is the synchronical history, we are going to incorporate both. I hope so that the message is clear, loud and clear, that we have divided diachronical history that moves forward over time into 4 parts. Rather, one more part can be added. That is the phase of Sufism before 1469 when Guru Nanak, the first Guru, he was born. That can also be added. We will definitely add that part also there, but in the end, when we have to see the genesis of Sikhism as a religion, what were the fertile grounds which were available by that moment before 1469, which have paved path for the thinking process of Naam Japo, Vand Chako, Kirat Karo of Guru Nanak, the socialistic ideas. Now, this is what we are going to see. Now, the second part, how we can see the history of Sikhs. Somewhere we have to talk about the epistemes. epistemes, which E sound that comes there. It means the philosophy is based on certain set of ideas, certain assumptions. Similarly, the Sikh history is having such 9 epistemes, and it has evolved around these 9 points. If we think that Sikhism is an ideology, Sikhism is a philosophy, a way of living, a way of practicing day-to-day events of the life, then we have the 9 epistemes which are the basis of the evolution of Sikhism as a philosophy there. The very first one is 1604, when Guru Granth Sahib came into the divine form. It is a formalization of the Sikh teaching. This is the first episteme. This is the first point where the philosophy started getting into a concrete shape, though the idea floated with Guru Nanak. But this was formalized by Guru Arjan Dev Ji, the fifth Guru. This is the first episteme, formalization of Sikh teachings in the divine form of Guru Granth Sahib in 1604. Now, what is the next thing? That was the repression and martyrdom of Guru Arjan Dev Ji. And we have an idea it had taken place in 1605 during the reign of Jahangir. So here, what we have found, rebelliousness in the sixth Guru in the form of learning of martial arts and having his own cavalry, and the rise of Akal Takht. So all these events we consider as the second episteme. Then the third one is the concept of decorum-driven concept of Sant Sipahi by Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th Guru, in 1699. That saint soldier, 1699, act of baptism, Anandpur Sahib, Shri Anandpur Sahib. This is the third episteme. This is the third set of ideas where the Sikh philosophy was evolving. The very first one is the formalization of the Sikh teachings into divine form of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. The second one is the martyrdom of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, the fifth one, at the hands of the state, and the rise of Akal Takht and the martial art, the cavalries by the sixth Guru there. And the third one, the concept of the decorum driven by Sant Sipahi, saint soldier, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, the 10th Guru, in 1699, act of baptism, Shri Anandpur Sahib. Now, let's see how further Sikhism, the concept has evolved. Now, this was 1807 when Akali Phula Singh, he was the Jathedar of Akal Takht, Shri Akal Takht Sahib, and a punishment was declared on Maharaja Ranjit Singh. This was the historic moment, episteme, that a Maharaja, a king, submitting himself to Akal Takht Sahib, Shri Akal Takht Sahib, and accepting the punishment for some immoral activity. So this kind of submission was the rarest. So it is considered as another episteme into the evolution of a Sikh philosophy there. Then the fifth one, this is the rise of Singh Sabha in 1873 and the Chief Khalsa Diwan in 1902. Then the rise of this Gadar campaign in the second decade of the 20th century, 1913 onwards. So this is another, you can say, episteme of the Sikh philosophy there. The state repression and attack on Shri Amritsar Sahib, 1984, that is the ninth one. Before that, we have the eighth one also there. That is the partition of Punjab, 1947, when Sikhs preferred to be the part of the Indian Union. And they migrated to the parts of Punjab which were there with India, across the line, Red Cliff line. And the last one is there when the Sikh affairs turned out to be globalized. The Sikh concern was globalized. Lots of things had happened in the last part of the 20th century and in the beginning of the 21st century. Lots of international organizations have come onto the forefront. The Khalsa Aid and the violation of the human rights that was reported across the platforms in Canada by Jaswant Singh Khalra. So this is the globalization of the Sikh concern. Lots of organizations have started coming up onto the international platforms. Now again, we are going to see how this history of the Sikh philosophy has evolved. There are 9 epistemes, 9 set of ideas, assumptions, actions, the deeds. This entire Sikh history is revolving around. The very first one is the formalization of the Sikh teachings in the divine form of Guru Granth Sahib, Shri Guru Granth Sahib, 1604. Then the repression and the martyrdom of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, 1605. And along with it, there is the rise of Akal Takht and the martial art and the cavalries by the sixth Guru, Guru Har Gobind Ji. And the third set of ideas that was responsible for the evolution of Sikh philosophy was the concept of the decorum-driven Sant Sipahi, the saint soldier, 1699, act of baptism, Shri Anandpur Sahib. Then the supreme authority of Akal Takht, to that Maharaja Ranjit Singh submitted himself and was ready to receive the punishment for something that he had been done that was not as per the tenets of Sikhism there. Marrying some dancer, and he had accepted that punishment, being the king of such a vast and a strong empire. And then a rise of Singh Sabha in 1873. And along with that, this Chief Khalsa Diwan 1902. This is again something that is responsible for adding a fresh lease of life to Sikhism. Rise of Gadar campaign. And somewhere we can see this 1920 and 1925 incidences of Akali Dal and SGPC. That can also be added. And the partition of Punjab in 1947 and the Sikhs preferred to be the part of India. They crossed the Red Cliff line in lakhs in number. And then the state repression and the attack on Shri Amritsar Sahib in 1984. Nearly Akal Takht was demolished. And then the last one is the globalization of the Sikh concern in the last part of the 20th century or in the earlier part of the 21st century, when lots of organizations have come onto the international platform and started raising the voice of the Sikhs. So these are the 9 or 10 epistemes, the set of ideas which are, you can say, somewhere responsible for the evolution of a Sikh philosophy there.